welcome back to Yoga Berry, your yoga for scoliosis community. I'm Christine Jareggi Berry. I'm a yoga teacher specializing in yoga for scoliosis. Feel free to join us over on Facebook, Yoga for Scoliosis Community, where you find lots of motivation, inspiration, and just virtually meeting other people who've got scoliosis as well. So today's practice is going to be about hip and pelvis pain, the lower back pain. It usually all goes hand in hand, and I'll just show you a few poses that you can do to relieve any of that pain. So what you need is a chair and a blanket. So if you get those things together, just hit pause and then come back to the video once you've got them. Good, so I folded the blanket into this rectangle shape. I've got my chair here and I've got a blanket on top of the chair. You can also use a cushion. And I only have this because my legs are relatively long, and for the proportions I would need that height, but you might not need it. You will see in a moment what I mean by this. So what we're going to do is we're going to lie with the back of the pelvis here on this blanket. And if this is uncomfortable for you at any point, feel free to adjust accordingly. So always listen to any signals from your body. If the blanket underneath the back of the pelvis is not for you, then it's not for you. However, it can really help to kind of bring the pelvis back into a neutral shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on the edge of the blanket here, just on one side. So it takes a bit of practice to get into the pose. Lie on my side, and then I want to lie on my back, resting my lower legs onto the chair. So my tailbone, so lowest part of the spine, should drop off at the other end of the blanket. So the blanket is not in the lower back, it's not up here, it's not only here under the back of the hips, but it's supporting the whole of the pelvis, getting that neutral rounding here in the lower back, the neutral curve. So I hope this makes sense. But hopefully you can see it. So the backs of the knees should be on the edge of the chair, and then I'm resting my arms up towards the ceiling, just allowing for the shoulders to drop. So this is called an inversion. So the body is literally upside down. The blood can come back to the heart, so it leaves the heart. It's draining the legs of fluids, which is really, really good. It's nice to do in the evenings if you have trouble sleeping, for example. This is a fantastic pose. And for me, if I feel any sort of lower back and hip pain, this really takes the pressure, the weight out of the pelvis, and really helps to relieve that area. So feel free to stay for as long as it's comfortable for you. 5 to 10 minutes is usually what I would recommend. And just kind of imagine that you're dropping into the ground a little bit more, noticing your breath. So just following your breath, breathing in and out through the nose, allowing for the shoulders to drop a little bit more, releasing your head and your neck. Letting the hips be heavy. Just following the rhythm of your breath. Just noticing the back of the rib cage, maybe releasing a little bit more. And noticing if you're holding on to any tension that is not needed. Good. So let's slowly come out of the pose. Again, if you're practicing this again, set yourself a timer. 5 to 10 minutes is lovely. So I'm going to push this chair away. We don't need this anymore. And we're going to remove the blanket. Just putting it to the side. And then just coming onto your yoga mat. I'm going to shuffle back a little bit so it's easier to see. Feet hip distance apart. Making sure the outer edges of the feet are parallel to the outer edges of the mat. Especially if you have lumbar scoliosis, one foot might turn out. So see if you can get them parallel. And then from there, we're just going to slowly start to move the knees from side to side like a mini windscreen wiper. So just massaging the back of the pelvis. And then slowly allowing for these movements to become bigger. Maybe dropping the knees all the way over to one side, all the way over to the other, or maybe just staying with this movement. So this is about mobilizing the lower back and the hips. Good, and then just coming back to center. What we need for the next pose is ideally a yoga block, or you can use a book if it's not too heavy. So I'm going to use my yoga block, which looks like this. If you don't have anything like this, you can also use your blanket. And we're going to bring it in between the thighs and the knees. And then letting the feet mirror the width of the yoga block. Again, palms can either turn up towards the ceiling or facing down, whatever feels better for you. And then on the next exhale, to the count of 4, we're going to squeeze the block slowly. So 1, 2, 3, 4. On the inhale, to the count of 4, release without dropping the block. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the next exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, squeezing the block. 1, 2, 3, 4 to release without dropping the block. So continue at your own pace. Squeezing on the exhale. Inhale to release. So let's do 5 of these to begin with. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release. Good. So this one is called a pelvis resetting pose, and it's really, really good if you feel any sort of pain around the SI joint and the sacroiliac joint at the back of the sacrum. Can be out of line from scoliosis, especially if you have a lumbar scoliosis. So if you feel any sort of hip pain, it could be coming from there. So it's a great pose. So intuitively we want to stretch usually the hips, but actually for this joint it's much better to be stable rather than to be stretched. So let's do it one more time, one more round of 5 if you can. So on the exhale, squeezing the block. On the inhale, to release without dropping the block. You might also feel how it starts to activate the core muscles. So we've been focusing on the inner thighs so far, so squeezing the legs together. But if you imagine that the hip bones are moving together on every exhale, and then moving slightly apart on the inhale, this starts to activate the transverse abdominal muscles, so deep core muscles that we need for stabilization. Good, so let's do one more. Squeeze to the count of 4, and then slowly release, putting the block to the side. Good. So to come up, slowly roll yourself over to the side and coming back up into sitting. Good. So I hope you enjoyed this practice. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it beneficial, and feel free to let me know if you have any questions as usual, and I see you very soon for the next video.